My mom wants me to give her a second chance to fix our relationship after she let her husband's daughters bully me throughout my childhood, and I'm torn. I, 19F, was 2 when my parents divorced. They shared 50-50 custody of me, which means I spent equal time with my mom at her house and with my dad at his. When I was 5, my mom met her husband and his daughters, who were 1 year old and 1 year younger than me. He had shared custody with their mom, and during their 2 years of dating we went a lot of places together so we could all bond. At the time I told my mom I felt like I was being excluded by his daughters and it didn't feel like we were sisters. My mom told me that was my shyness talking, and she promised they loved me and we'd be sisters. During the wedding, her husband's daughters pushed me into the drinks table and stepped on my dress, and when we were asked to take a photo together they stepped in front of me so I couldn't be seen. When it was time for a photo of my mom and her husband and the 3 of us, they refused to stand in the middle with me. I think I spent most of the wedding in tears, and by the end of the night my mom realized I was not getting over it super fast, and she told me not to stress because they were struggling with the wedding because their mom wasn't happy, and we'd be back to normal when it was all over. But normal meant they walked out of the room when I came in, or it meant they made fun of me for things like my hair being frizzy or because I had to take extra reading due to a learning disability. It also meant they would exclude me from games with kids in the neighborhood, and when we were set up to play games together they would refuse to share with me. They used to argue with their dad over sitting next to me at dinner or in the car. They would actually lean into each other and away from me and would tell me not to touch them. My dad stepped in a lot to try and help me, but my mom would not listen to him. He tried to change the custody days around so I wasn't there when the girls were, but the judge refused to grant that. One time I got back to him and they had stuck 5 pieces of gum in my hair and he had to take me to get it all cut, which the girls mocked me for when I went back to mom. My mom then accused my dad of being abusive and aggressive because he yelled at her for doing nothing to protect me from the bullying. Other things they did was mess with, break or hide my stuff, and they would steal stuff they knew I really liked. The younger girl stole my favorite dress and gave it to one of her friends. They would spill drinks on my homework when I was almost finished. They even did it to my laptop when I had almost all my assignment done, and it was always intentional. Their dad never wanted to hear me talk about his daughters, and my mom would keep telling me it was all going to be fine and they loved me but had a hard time showing it. One of the scariest things they did was when we were on vacation together 5 years ago. We were forced to go explore together and they abandoned me intentionally. They didn't want to hang out with me, and I blame my mom most of all for what happened. But they really didn't care what happened to me. I was lost for the whole day, and even when others started to panic they gave zero shits about my safety. They were telling jokes about the fact I might be dead, which they told me about and mom reluctantly admitted to. My dad brought that up in court and it was still not enough to get full custody of me or change the days I was there. What apparently did make a difference was my age and the fact they locked me out of the house without my cell phone or anything when my mom and their dad were away for the weekend. At a wedding. It was raining and I had to sleep out there and everything. A neighbor saw me the next morning and she let me into her house, and I called my dad that way, and yeah. Between that and my age when it happened I was allowed to just outright live with my dad. My mom cried at the time and asked to see me for lunch and stuff, but I told her no and my dad told her to go fuck herself. She went quiet for a few years and now has apologized, and she has asked me for a second chance to have a relationship with me. But I don't know. She let me down so bad, and even if she is sorry I don't know that I will ever forgive her or trust her to want her in my life.
What do you think about this story? I'm waiting for your opinion in the comments, and now the second story will be shown. I, 28F, refused to let my homeless sister, 26F, and her 2-year-old stay with me, and my parents are furious. My sister, 26F, and I, 28F, were close growing up until my senior year of high school. She made some questionable friends and became questionable herself. She would sneak out and get drunk or sneak out and TP houses. She messed with a few cars as well. She became unpleasant to be around, and her since pre-K BFF ended their friendship when this all started to go down because she treated her like dog's shit. Our relationship also became dog's shit because she would try to pin the stuff she was doing on me and she would yell and cuss me out because I refused to find a way to sneak her and her new friends alcohol and because I wouldn't take her to senior parties with me. There was one time I got home from a party and she had my room all fucked up. We didn't speak for 3 whole years after I left for college, but after 3 years she calmed down and we reconnected. It was never the same, but she apologized for all the stuff she did and I thought she had grown. For a few years things were okay, but then she started to get toxic again and eventually I found out she was sleeping with my boyfriend of 5 years. I broke up with him and told her to remove herself from my life for good. Our parents were distraught because they wanted to believe she had stopped fucking up like that. It got worse when we found out she was pregnant with my ex's baby and she was blaming me for him bailing and leaving no trace of himself anywhere. I refused to get involved and I left her to her own devices. She had no problem blaming me for a solid year. She even contacted friends of mine to spread that shit around. A month ago she was kicked out of her place and now she and her 2-year-old are homeless. She showed up at my job and asked me to let her move in and I told her no. She told me she needed to get out of the shelter and I told her to go home and start over with our parents' help. She got in touch with my parents who have been furious with me ever since. I told them be mad but I would not help her out after everything she has done. They asked about the 2-year-old and I told them the 2-year-old is my sister's problem, not mine, and that she could take my advice if she cared so much. My parents have taken her in, but even so they are furious that I wouldn't help her temporarily, so they weren't in a shelter. I have been ignoring their calls for a week now because it's the same old thing. I don't know if my relationship with my parents can survive or recover from this, and honestly I'm not even sure it's a terrible thing considering they were okay with me being taken advantage of. But I'm sad about it and looking for advice because this sucks and I still love them despite the conflict over my sister. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe, see you in the next video.